Hey, happy New Year's. Yeah, I know I am horrible. What's up? Just me and my horrible self with my horrible cat. We're having a horrible New Year's. Just kidding. It's great here. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Freakazoid podcast. Does decentering men also include not analyzing and discussing their actions with friends? Because that will be difficult, TBH, sometimes. You just have to fail the Bechdel test with your girls. Yeah, no, because there's important insight to be gained, especially depending on how aware you're becoming of men and their actions. I want to use today to talk about how decentering them is the new glow up and how it's the glow up that most people don't know that they need. If you don't know why you should decenter men, one of the reasons is that men don't center women. Most men do things for the approval and the likeness of other men. Think about that. Chew on that. But let me find what I wrote. The male gaze is inherently shaped by patriarchal standards. Men often like what gets them clout or validation from other men. They don't even center you in their preferences, so they're centering their approval of their peers. So breaking your back, trying to appeal to them is futile. If you're only valuable to someone when they can exploit you physically or emotionally, you're not in a relationship, you're in a transaction. Another thing that women do when they're centering men, and why decentering them would be the next big glow up of your life, when you decenter men, you stop externalizing your locus of control. Whether a guy approves of your outfit, or whether he thinks your makeup is perfect, or whether he liked your story or viewed your story, like the entire direction of your day hangs on whether this guy gave you attention, or whether you're considered as one of the boys, or if whether you got your pick-me points by bragging about something in your life and trying to get his approval, or making yourself smaller so that you can be more digestible, but like not being your authentic self around these guys. What I have in my notes though is that every time you make men the measuring stick for your worth, you hand over the steering wheel of your life. Most guys who seek attention from women aren't even serious about you. They're just using you to gauge their own desirability for their ego. Being someone's barometer for if they still got it or if they're still hot enough is degrading, and it's a waste of your energy. Because it goes back to point number one. They're not even centering you. They're not even hanging their approval on you. They're hanging it on their dudes. You're pouring a lot of energy where it's not being reciprocated back into you. So just by default, you're already going to have so much more to give back to yourself if you just stop doing those first two things when it comes to centering men. So yeah, stop externalizing your locus of control onto whether they talk to you, like you, whether they approve of you, or whether they accept you and give you brownie points. Some ways that this looked like for me, I don't know, if you're trying to convince a man that like you have a nice car, or that you have a nice home, or that like your job is cool, or that you're cool. Like a lot of the times they approach you knowing that you probably got it going on like that. And all of that stuff is brownie points. Most men don't care if you live in a trap house. Honestly, let's be real. Most men don't even appreciate if you have Victoria's Secret underwear. Like the good stuff. I remember when I worked at Victoria's Secret one time, I bought a really nice bra and all the women were like, damn, who's that for? And the person who it was for didn't even appreciate it. And then the men I recycled it on didn't even appreciate it. I'm like, oh my God, it's such a waste. It's such a waste. I had my early crash course. I think I was like 21 back then, 19 through 21. But yeah, another reason why decentering men is going to be your next big glow up is because self-affirmation is powerful. When you decenter men and you decenter your locus of control and you give yourself approval, you become a person who self-affirms. And being self-affirming is powerful. People can't take away the value that you have created for yourself. People can't convince you that you have less value where you're already bringing it to a situation or a relationship dynamic. Now, if you arrive to a relationship dynamic hoping that that man or that relationship gives you value, oh my God, you're going to be like Danielle from 90 Day Fiancé, like Danielle and Muhammad. That desperation is very obvious to other people, like women, elders, your peers. You usually bring that, oh, you give me value. I don't have it when I'm walking in the room and talking to you. I feel like the major vibe with that one is that it challenges you to find that self-value. And I will say this, that self-value doesn't just come by doing affirmations. Affirmations is one part of it. Another part of it is being very deeply interested in topics or special skills, ways that you're planning on growing. Like if you're planning on going to a school, or if you're planning on moving the country, or even just like your day-to-day is very busy. So that would be the stuff that would give you value. It'd be those things that other people can't take away from you, even if they leave your life. This next one It's going to be a lot to unpack. But centering men traps you into timelines and situations that aren't genuinely yours. What I have written down here, you're basically living on a man's clock for what you should be doing and when you want to be liked by them, and when you're trying to live within the parameters of what men expect of women. And even then, that's like coming from the standpoint of what misogynistic men expect of other men from their women. What I have in my notes is living on someone else's clock. It sounds like, when will I get married? When will I have kids? These are things that keep you trapped into societal shoulds. And I don't know if you guys already know this, but that's the stuff that's built on control, not on what you authentically, genuinely want. Unless you do want that. There are people who do just want to have a healthy family. But when you're living a life like you're trying to measure up to the standards of these dudes, you're living for a performance. You're living for approval. You're not living for yourself. So when you decenter men, you stop living for what them or society thinks that you should be doing. And you start living for what you really want. And that's freedom. I know people go through this phase where they have to rectify what a happy life looks like versus what they thought it would look like. And that can be a big deal for people in all situations. Let's move on to the next one. Not the firework people in the parking lot. They have big ones. Those timelines that I was just talking about, those are made for people who are moving in insecurity. The obsession with meeting milestones, marriage by 30, kids by 35, it's mostly for people who are chasing approval and not happiness. You think staying on track will make you more likable or worthy, but it won't. It just makes you a slave to somebody else's system. Decentering men is about breaking out of those expectations and asking yourself, what do I actually want? Now, the biggest one, the biggest beef that women have with decentering men, when I have this conversation with them or when we start talking about it, dating apps. I'm just going to go out and say it. I do think dating apps are a scam. They're traps for people who are centering men. And I say this because men use dating apps as a gateway to treat them like websites. So why would you use it as a way to try to get a genuine connection? It's not even about like the ghosting and the breadcrumbing or people who have like relationship habits that they can't bring to a situation. It's the fact that so many men use dating apps as a way to just get free sex, or even like ego boost points just to see who they can get, what they can get, who they can take advantage of if there's an opportunity to, depending on the man. Dating apps make it very easy for those dudes. So yeah, I think dating apps are a scam, and having a morning habit, night habit, evening lunch habit of like scrolling on them and seeing who's giving you attention, who's being consistent, it's very decentering of yourself. It puts all the locus back onto whether your day is going to be good based off how your day goes on a dating app. But all right, okay, I see some questions coming into the chat. How do you advise to encourage your friends to prioritize their needs, want, goals, and community? I think if you see them doing some centering men in that very moment, you have to call it out for what it is. And like, you have to laugh about it with them. I don't think you're going to be able to force somebody to do something that they don't want. I'm a believer that like, you just have to let people live their life and take the path that they want to go down. As far as prioritizing their wants, needs, goals, and communities, like let's say you notice that they're like missing their homework, or they're like spending more time with a dude, so they're like not studying for test. Call that out. If they're like, oh, I'm having a hard time with math, it's like, yeah, because you need to stop hanging out with that guy and you need to sit down and like focus, turn off the music, stop the tell them something that they know is tea. But as far as like wanting them to prioritize like their wants and goals, you would only know that they're deprioritizing them based on how vocal they're being about having them, and then how vocal they're being about losing them, in my opinion. I do just think like you have to honestly call it out, but not a lot of people want unsolicited advice, and you're probably gonna hurt their feelings. But as somebody who did have like a mean centering man phase, I did have friends who called me out and who treated me like I was annoying for the things I was doing and saying. So like, yeah, I think honestly at the time I did know it was a problem too. Like it did break me out of my habits personally, but I'm somebody who's willing to learn and self-reflect. I don't know about everybody. Some people will get pissed the off. That's what makes them dangerous. Like, because they would rather keep their centering male ways. I had a friend who very deeply believed that limerence was the key to happiness and the key to life, and that they didn't want a relationship if it didn't have limerence. And at its core, limerence is OCD. Limerence is obsession. She deeply believed that like her life couldn't be happy without having obsession. And I did find that over time that came to be a detriment to the relationship because she was on a hunt for her obsession every time we would go out in public. And that hunt for being on a new obsession always like it led us to go bar hopping from place to place to place looking for her husband. These women say it out loud too. They'll be like,
"That's my husband,"
as a man walks by. Or like,
"Oh, I think I see my husband at that bar. We have to go into it."
Okay, Alyssa Ray says, dating apps fully heighten your awareness of a man's perception of you. You can't really decenter men if you're active on the dating apps. Girl, true tea. And you know what's so funny? Men make their profiles for other men. Women are making their profiles for men. Men don't care, like, if a woman approves of that fish photo or, like, the advice that they're being given for, like, how to move on a dating app. I remember my mom saying and having a lot of complaints that are still valid to this day. Also, I don't, to answer Panda's question, I don't equate having traditions to having discipline. I think you can have discipline without having kids and being married. Also, I find that so much of having kids and being married and the discipline that you're talking about, I find that that leads to women sacrificing their own discipline and men being able to focus on their careers while women rear their children at home. But all right, I actually do have a final point here, and this is the last one. A centered woman is an unstoppable woman. So when you stop making the men the axis of your world, you become untouchable. You glow differently because your energy isn't tied to someone else's validation. You're out here building, learning, and evolving and not waiting for someone's good morning text to feel whole. But yeah, so just to recap the points, being obsessed with dating apps is crazy when men use it like a free website. Most people centering men are living in a invisible timeline of when they're going to have kids, move in, etc. And they're living a life of shoulds and they aren't being authentic to themselves. And when they're doing that, they're moving out of insecurity and they wouldn't care about timelines if they didn't care about making themselves be approved by others. At the core, when you're centering men, you're really just centering people who are wondering if they still got it, like that. And they're using their ability to sleep with you to determine their ability to still pull women because you might not even be their actual genuine type and they might not even actually want a relationship with you. And unpopular opinion, I think it's crazy to date if they don't actually want a relationship. I think the whole idea of dating for experiences is like rooted in dating for ego and just seeing whoever you can get just to see if you can get them. Yeah, to me, I feel like that's insecurity. Like, it's one thing if you're just like, oh, they're cute, the moment's available and like they're there. But even then, like, a party is nothing but a party when you party every day, like Miley Cyrus said. Not sure if you have a full podcast episode devoted to this topic, but I would love to hear more about societal timeline expectations for women. Yeah, no, actually I feel like I really wanted to touch on that today. I don't have a full podcast episode about that, but I do have an episode called No Man Equals No Value. And I also have another one that's called The Art of Being Alone. And they both kind of touch on the expectations of needing to have a man to have value and needing to be in the presence of people or in the presence of a dude in order to be your best full self, and why you don't have to have either. So many of the expectations for women are created from this place of men needing to have a family to sow their oats, sow their seeds, needing to have women who are young and childbearing. But I really just think that that's a cover up for being a pedo. The whole idea is that the woman rears the child and supports the man with food and clean homes and like clean clothes. So in my opinion, this idea of like what a woman should be doing just goes down to a woman should be supporting her married husband. And I feel like this has just been a thing. I feel like this has been a thing across societies. So much of the timeline that you're given of what you should be doing is in the name of a man. Because like having kids does not benefit you at 20. Getting married to a geezer guy who is twice your age, with the exception of financial benefit or maybe even societal upward movement, is not to your benefit. The origin is get one that is really young for a man, like get a really young wife, like send the parents a goat, make a deal. Or the parents would give you a gift to take her off your hands. So much of women getting married at a young age and having kids at a young age is this idea that they're going to support a man until he's very old and give him lots of seeds. That woman's going to let this man sow his oats in her. So I think like as a woman, you shouldn't feel bad that you're not, 1, pregnant in your 20s, 2, married in your 20s. I also think that you shouldn't feel bad if you're living alone in your 20s or your 30s. It's actually like living in a little hotel. It's like having your own hotel and being able to come to it and like decorate it and build it up or build it down. It's fun. As far as like these shoulds and societal timelines, It's like, oh yeah, if you're not out here having this guy's kids and getting married and you're not being a wife at a young age, you're looking for attention, you're going to be a spinster. They try to scare you. A lonely lady with cats, as if like you are being like more fulfilled by a man who is making you like clean and look after his dookie children. You feel like you need to evolve from your ideologies. Wait, let me read the question in full. We're the same age, by the way. I feel like while I'm not pressured by anyone, my rejection of a traditional path makes some people think that I'm too much of a wild child party girl, when that's far from the truth, and I just need to evolve from my ideologies. Have you ever dealt with that? Of people projecting their misconceptions onto you because you're not living the life that they might be living? I feel like people look at women like us who are single and childless like we have no responsibilities, therefore we must be partying or we must be doing something irresponsible. Oh my God, it's 11:59. Oh my God, it's 11:59. Yeah, I say f*** them. F*** them. There's 42 seconds. Yes, Happy New Year's. Bye-bye 2024. Yes. Oh, y'all are so sweet with the Happy New Year's messages in the chat. All right, you guys, and that concludes today's episode of why decentering men is the new glow up in 2025 that you didn't know that you needed. Make sure to follow so that you never miss an episode. Leave 5 stars so that we can spread Fleeksy supremacy. And follow me on YouTube where I am the Fleekazoid channel. I'm also Fleeksy on all social media channels. So that's Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. I'm on Blue Sky now. But yeah, leave 5 stars, leave nice comments, give me feedback. Let me know what you think about this episode. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Bye guys. Thanks for watching. All right. That was bye for the podcast, not for everybody on Twitch. We're still kicking it. We're still hanging out for the rest of New Year.